Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. I play board games because there's nothing else better to do. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first my sponsor would like a quick word with you. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk. KIENDA stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So today I'm taking a look at Vale of Eternity, which, to be honest, get the title out of your head. This is an abstract engine builder card game that literally just came out of nowhere from Renegade Game Studios and Mandu Games. Now the review copy, I literally just bought this on a whim. I just felt like, you know what, it's cheap, it's small, and I've kind of had it up to here with games that require me to learn about 5 hours worth of rules in order to get them played. I mean, have you seen some of the videos I've put out lately? I mean, I've even got Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin underneath this table, which I'm enjoying, don't get me wrong, but again, it's more stuff to get out, you know. I just wanted to play something a little bit lighter for a change, and so I heard good things about this one. It was getting good reviews, there was a lot of high praise, and I thought, an unknown game out of nowhere that's suddenly getting high praise? I'm going to give this one a look. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? So it's time to find out and see for myself.
Wingus, dingus, listen up.
The Vale of Eternity is essentially an abstract engine builder card game. Players are placing cards into their tableau by summoning these various creatures of different various types and families and costs. Each one has a unique special ability on it, when players are essentially trying to build up combos as the game progresses in order to score victory points. The game will end when somebody either reaches 60 victory points or 10 rounds have passed. How you do it? Well, that's based on the cards that you summon. Each round plays out the same. Essentially, there are 3 phases to the round: hunting round, the hunting phase, the action phase, and the resolution phase. In the hunting phase, cards are revealed from the top of the deck based on the number of players and arranged around this little display here as kind of opportunities for players to draft. Players will draft slightly differently to how you might be used to by placing their markers on the various cards that they want in turn order until everybody has picked 2. Once they've now done that, the actions phase is where players can do various things like taking a card into their hand, paying the cost in power stones in order to summon it, or sell the card off for a special monetary bonus from here, you know, in whatever order and whatever frequency they like, in order to get the maximum use out of a particular round. The cards that they can actually interact with, though, are the ones that they put their markers on from the previous round. Taming the card simply just puts it into your hand, and summoning it requires the use of power stones. They come in multiples of 1, 3, and 6, and you're only allowed 4 of these at any one time. Hard limit. So the values are irrelevant. 4 stones. Doesn't matter if they're 4 1s, 4 6s. So you essentially have to juggle around this currency of the various different types. The resolution phase is just as simple. You simply resolve all the abilities on the cards with hourglass symbols on them, which essentially can trigger in any order you like, whatever is beneficial to you. And that's pretty much the game in a nutshell. You play through 10 rounds with those particular actions, the drafting part, the actions themselves, and then resolving the abilities, move on to the next round, and keep going until 10 rounds are passed or 60 points have been accumulated. And of course, guess what happens to the person with the most?
Of course!
So as you can tell already, this game is frightfully simple. There wasn't really much to discuss in the overview, and you're not joking. This rulebook is bigger than it looks because of the size, but really, it's a very straightforward game when you get it all going. You know, they write in big font, they've got a decent amount of pictorial representation, there really aren't that many rules in here. That being said, as much as this is a very easy game and a very streamlined game, the rulebook does make 1 or 2 weird little tangents at times, where it kind of tries to make a pig's ear of explaining stuff, mainly due to terminology. It goes on for a whole paragraph in here, about half a page worth, talking about areas. An area, in this context, is simply the card space in front of you, where you put a card. And you're limited to as many areas, or cards in front of you, as the round number. Why does it keep going on for about area all the time? I mean, let me just read you this passage and see if this makes much sense to you, right? An area is a zone that a player uses to display the card that they have summoned. The number of areas that each player may have is equal to the number of the current round. Important, you cannot have more summoned cards than the number of areas you have. Once you have as many summoned cards as there are areas, your areas are considered full.
What the hell are you talking about?
If you understood what the hell that was going on about, then good on you, sir, because that confused me for a few minutes. I mean, I had to literally go on BGG and ask, hang on a minute, does that mean I can have, like, in round 5 rows or areas of 5 cards? Because there's not even that big a deck. How's that going to work? Or does it mean just X cards in front of you, so 5 cards in front of me? It's the latter. But why does the book go on about areas, for crying out loud? I mean, I don't even refer to them as areas when I teach the game. I simply just go, look, you can have as many cards summoned in front of you as round number in the game. That's it. That's what you got to do. One sentence. That's all it took. And it takes this one about like a page for the rules, going on about areas. It's just kind of a weird term to use. Another one that they do is the whole idea of the taking the card into your hand. You've got sell a card. Makes sense. You sell the card, you discard it, you get some money. Great. Okay, what's the other one? You summon a card. Yep, you summon a card, you play it from your hand in front of you. Standard Magic the Gathering style terminology. Taking the card into your hand is taming the animal. That's what the term says in the book. Taming the animal. That's kind of weird though, because taming makes you think it's like playing it as well, a bit like summon, and you know, everybody in every game I play, including myself, forgets that's the term, and whenever we mention the word taming, they're like, what does that do again? Oh, you mean take a card, right. It's just use the word take a card. You're the Vale of Eternity, you're an engine builder abstract card game, you're not thematic, this is not a thematic game in any way. I mean, you look at this little standee here, and you think, oh, that looks pretty cool. Do you want to know why that's in the game? It's literally there, and the rulebook quotes this. I kid you not. Where does it say? You are free to use the Eternity standee. Placing it in the center of the game board will add a nice touch to your photos. It's literally in there to appease TikTokers and Instagrammers.
Right.
I don't mind Instagram so much, after all I use it, but the less said about TikTok the better. But there's just small blemishes. I mean, they're minor things. Once you get past that whole area terminology and just refer to tame as take, then you're done. You never have to refer to those again, and the rules are then so dead simple that this game can be taught to just about anybody. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a gateway game, because when you're talking about new players to games, I wouldn't want to throw a game where they've got to juggle around a bunch of card abilities and such and such. I just think that's maybe a little bit too high. Now, component quality wise, woohoo, this is pretty good for the price point you pay. It's a small box, pretty compact, but you get 2 boards, one with some pretty nice little colourful artwork on there, but you've got a lot of cards in the game, about 70 cards, and each one has some very nice colourful, you know, not groundbreaking, but nice colourful artwork on them. But you've got very chunky wooden pieces for the markers that you use to draft. You've got tokens for the power stones. I mean, maybe you could have had something a little bit more fancy in there, but you know, you got to keep the price point up to, you know, up to a certain level. But all in all, it's pretty nicely done. Even the first player marker is pretty nice. I mean, it's literally a giant wooden engraved piece. Gotta give it credit. I mean, first player markers don't normally give a monkey's about, but this one's just nice, compact, and looks the part.
They had no expense.
So from the gameplay overview earlier, you're probably thinking, well, there can't be that much to this game, surely. Surprisingly, there's a decent amount of depth here for 3 main reasons. Firstly, the drafting. Again, going back to that whole rulebook weirdness, the fact that you don't draft cards by taking the cards, you put markers on them is kind of odd, but that blemish aside. But the cool thing with these is that, you know, drafting in games, I like it when there's an element of hate drafting as well, because you only reveal twice the number of cards as there are players, so there's only so many cards to pick from, there's only so much that you can really AP with them. And sometimes you will find a card, or like a bunch of cards, where it's like, they don't really suit my strategy that much, but I could get a few power stones play, or I can at least stop somebody getting their insane combo, and it's like, oh, hang on, that rock golem for you, you've got a bunch of 6s there, and you're going to earn points for those. You know what? I'm going to have that card. I'm not going to tame it, not going to summon it. No, I'm going to sell it for money. That's all I'm going to do. At least you can't have it. So you do get an element of hate drafting in this game, which is pretty good. But even the turn angst is quite solid. The turn marker just passes each round. I would have liked maybe if there was a way to earn it, but no big deal. But, you know, when you're going first compared to last, it makes a big deal when you see a set of cards and it's like, oh, I wish I could grab that. Although that does introduce a little bit of a luck aspect to like, oh, the perfect card came out for me and I'm going last. That tends to happen, but for reasons I'll get onto in a minute, that's not a massive deal. Secondly, the fact that these have all unique abilities is pretty cool as well. They've got some of them have multiple abilities, whether instant, whether passive in the resolution phase, or you know, ones that trigger like constantly throughout the game. But you can create some interesting like little play styles with this. In fact, the game just last night, in fact, I'll mention this, Three of us played, three tactics we had. One person tried to do a lot of like sort of big summons, like big creatures, okay? But eventually ran out of income and had a problem. The person opposite me was using a lot of bouncing effects. So a lot of these cards that basically go, right, play this card, bounces back to my hand, bounces back to my hand, play that card, bounces back to my hand. You know, they were doing a lot of that, which was, again, pretty unique and was really building up some steam. And I think I won with a strategy where I basically munchkined the blue cards and grabbed a bunch of these free power stones, which gave me points for doing stuff with the frees. But we all had very different strategies that we were doing with the cards, and each one of us was kind of in the running for a good portion of the game until eventually I sort of leapfrogged a couple at the very end. But it creates some moments where you do wonder, you know, am I out for the count? I'm at the very back. But if you can pull the right cards, you can potentially catch up and potentially win it with like some surprise moves if you just get the cards that you need. And the other bit of like sort of depth that I really like is the power stones themselves. The idea that you are limited to 4 in total. So it's not the mandatory value. I mean, you can have 4 like bucks, or I'm just going to call them bucks. It feels like money, whatever. But you can essentially have 4 bucks worth of money, which is not really much, but that's 4 power stones. Instead, I could have 4 6s. Well, that gives me 24, you know, like money there. The only problem is you don't get change. I love these games where you have currency and you don't get change. You know, Alhambra has a similar thing as well.
All right, I'll give you 11. Now you're getting it. 11?
The idea that, I could play this card. It's a 4. I've only got 6s. Do I use up an entire 6 to play this card? It's worse if you get something like a 1. You know, I mean, I got 3 here, but here we go. A salamander. It only costs 1. I really wouldn't mind this ability, except I only have 6s in front of me. I don't want to pay a 6 to play a 1 card. So how do I convert this 6 down? There's a decent amount of juggling you got to do with these power stones, and it does result in some pretty funny moments where players are like, all right, I'm going to do that. Oh, is that what the money I've got? Oh, damn it. You know, what am I supposed to do with this thing then? And it does create, you know, not situations where you feel frustrated or annoyed, but just it adds that little bit and it clicks people into the game where they're sort of thinking, oh, this seems pretty simplistic. Oh, no, wait a minute. And then they start getting where the depth of this game lies. The game is also surprisingly fast. The game says 40 minutes on the box. That's reasonably accurate. The most this game should take you is an hour, and that's if you've got 4 of you with some people that tend to AP a little bit with the cards. The game takes up to 10 rounds. It could end in about 8, 9, 10 rounds or so. I mean, that tends to be it. I don't think I've had it end any earlier than 8 rounds, but you know, it's going to be 8 to 10 rounds, and they don't take that long. I mean, as I say, you draft 2 cards, do your actions in turn order, resolve some abilities, and then move on to the next round. Certainly, for your first game, for people who maybe are a bit tired or don't quite, you know, juggle cards abilities as well as other players, you know, I'm used to this kind of thing, so this is kind of second nature to me, but I mean, I've played enough CCGs and LCGs in my time to be able to juggle card abilities, but some people who are not used to it may take a little bit longer to see what they're doing, and so things can drag on a little bit downtime-wise from that. But you don't have to wait that long before your turn, and the actions themselves are straightforward. You can do whatever you like with the actions as many times as you like. You know, I'll play this card, get some coins, and then I'll play this one, but first I need to sell that one, get a few more coins, then I can play this card. That works better, which then lets me bounce this effect, great. And so you can create these cool combos, but you know, the game doesn't drag out for ages while players are taking their turns. Even if you've got a few actions to do on your turn, it's not like it makes the turn that much longer. Maybe a few, 10 more seconds, 20 more seconds for your turn, but not a great deal. 40 minutes is reasonably accurate for a box time. I can't believe I'm saying that after all the recent rubbish I've had.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
There is a small luck of the draw aspect, as I mentioned, with turn order maybe getting in the way and that, but the game is short enough and light enough that that doesn't really bother me with this. However, there is a type of card that's not very common in this deck, but it does crop up from time to time, and it sours people when it happens. The game, unfortunately, does have a few cards in here, not many, but a few, that are take that cards. Yes, take that, the poor man's way of making a game interactive. I mentioned Ancient Knowledge on the podcast recently, and I mentioned the take that cards in that game, how they just don't seem to fit in there and they're just a bit annoying. Well, here, it's exactly the same effect. There are a few cards in here that do allow you to essentially discard another player's thing. Now, it's mainly on the dragon cards, and the dragon cards have only got 10 of them in the deck, the rest have 15. But I've literally just found one here, the Ember. So earn 7 points, a player of your choice discards one of their summoned blue cards. Now, the player might not have any blue cards. Okay, fine. It might not even be that useful to them, fair enough. But at certain times we have seen that somebody's engine can be pretty much destroyed by somebody playing one of these cards and it affecting them pretty badly. Now you might argue, well, if your engine derived from just one card, it wasn't a very good engine.
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
Maybe that was the card you could get, and if it's an engine that worked, it's an engine that worked. You know, you can't plan ahead hoping that somebody doesn't draw one of like a few cards out of this deck that can completely screw your engine because, well, there's not many of them in here, and if nobody draws the card, then your engine can carry along as it were. You know, I mean, you know, the car is an efficient engine at the end of the day, but we don't plan ahead for the time when somebody comes along and takes a sledgehammer to it. Yeah, okay, fine, you know, you should have planned that somebody might take a sledgehammer to your engine. No, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, the take that cards you can't really remove from here either because you would reduce the number in a particular suit, but I hope that if they do an expansion to this game, they will find a way to take those out or maybe replace them with something a bit more lighthearted, because it's not good to have one of your, what, like 6-7 cards on average in a game killed. You know, you're talking like, you know, 20%, 10%, you know, of your entire engine is gone in one go. That's a little bit annoying.
You lose! Good day, sir!
The bigger deal I will mention is the replay value. This is kind of the Achilles heel of this game, because there is a decent amount of replay value to begin with. You know, you've got 70 cards here. In 4-player games, you're likely to actually go through the whole deck, or, you know, possibly, it kind of varies. 3 players you won't too, you certainly won't. But once you've played a few games of this, you're going to have seen pretty much all the cards that are in here, and seen a lot of the potential sort of strategy combos that you can create. And so there's a limitation for long-term replayability. That's what kind of makes me a little worried, because the games I have played have been very entertaining and I have enjoyed it, but am I going to want to play this game another 10 to 20 times with just this deck of cards? You know, even other tableau building games I have, like Seasons or something, you know, they've got a lot of cards now, particularly with 2 expansions, but you don't see a lot of the cards during each game, so there is a decent amount of replay value in something like that. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated. Now, some people might compare this to something like Res Arcana. Now, Res Arcana has got a reasonable amount of replay value. Unfortunately, it's dull, dry, and boring as hell. Damn! This one, I just feel like I've enjoyed it so far, and I do think it's, like, pretty solid, but, you know, spoiler alert, but I am just a bit concerned that after a while I might be like, do I want to see these same combos built again? You know, you're not necessarily going to be able to easily create the same combo from this deck of cards, because just because I managed to get all the blues one game doesn't mean that somebody else is going to. But I feel like this one's going to need an expansion down the line. No more like crazy mechanics. We don't need any more complication to the game, but just give me another deck of cards. There's plenty of space in the box for it. Just like give me another deck of cards this big that we can mix together or use as an alternate deck. That's all the game really needs, but if it doesn't bring out an expansion, yeah, could be problematic. So even though the Vale of Eternity is at its core basically an abstract engine builder card game, this one has surprised me more than I thought it would. The game is just really good and fluffy and light. You know, there's no weird complications. There are those blemishes I mentioned in the rulebook before, but as soon as you conquer that hurdle, they are no longer a problem. It's all done and dusted. It's not like a game where the rules are so weird and convoluted, or there's a lot of micro rules that it trips people up all the time. Once you get past those blemishes, that's done. And then the game is silky smooth, really easy to learn, easy to play. I mean, even those who aren't that comfortable with card abilities will pick this up reasonably well, but if you are used to card abilities, well, then this one's going to play like a cinch to you. But there's still a decent amount of depth. There are a good number of combos you can create with these cards. There is a great deal of, you know, like decision to be made with the drafting of which 2 cards you want for what reasons, and also how you're going to juggle these power stones, which frequently comes up as a thing. The endgame conditions, the fact that this can last 10 rounds max, means that the game will end. It's not going to drag out forever, you know, AP players notwithstanding, but 40 minutes, still pretty accurate. Would I have liked a solo mode in the game? Possibly. Maybe they can add that down the line, but not every game needs a solo mode, so I'll take a 2 to 4 player game that I can play in 40 minutes. I mean, I literally played this last night as a filler before we got to the main game. Now, it took a little bit longer than the filler because of new players being a bit hard with card abilities, but you could feasibly just go, you know what, we've got 30 minutes to kill. You don't fancy playing Splendor or one of the other 30-minute fillers of choice? Fine, we'll play Vale of Eternity, and it does a pretty solid job. That being said, there are those two annoying issues. You do have those take that cards, which can ruin someone's day. They don't come up every game, but they are there, they are a factor. And the replay value is the one thing I would caveat into question. I do really like this game, and I do think it is a great, small card game that I think a lot of people are going to like. But I gotta stress that the replay value is a concern. So as much as I'm gonna give this one a pretty good distinction, 9 out of 10, I think it deserves a distinction level rating, I am still gonna caveat that you must watch out for the replay value. You know, you're gonna get a decent amount for now, and it's not an expensive game, but if no expansion content comes out for this game, it could maybe run its course after a while, and then you'll be thinking, well, I've kind of seen all the combos this thing can do, so you might want to play this with a lot of different players rather than just playing this with the same group all the time. For me, that's kind of a good thing, because a lot of the times I am playing with different people who visit game clubs and want to try something new, so a game like this works quite well. Yes, I'll have the advantage, but anybody can win this game. It's not like, you shouldn't be able to dominate the game. There's enough luck factors in here and enough card combos to be made that one person shouldn't constantly keep winning this game. So it deserves a distinction level rating. Just remember, replay value is a concern, and a few reviewers have touched upon this but maybe not focused on it enough. But I don't think that alone is enough to bring it down to an 8 out of 10, because I still think everything else in here is just really solid, and it just makes me feel glad to play something light, fairly fluffy, fairly easy to get on with, and not have to be bogged down in a rulebook the size of War and Peace anymore. At least not until probably the next game I end up playing.
This is light.
So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the site. Don't forget to check out the other content I've done. I did a weird little video where I talked about 10 regrets I have for my board game content. I come up with a lot of weird variety content for this show, but it doesn't always work out, doesn't always go as planned, so therefore I get to talk about those things on that show. But also check out the review I did for September. Not one of my favourite games I played recently, and you want to talk about games with a few micro rules and a bit too much faff for what it is and stuff, then, well, check out that review and find out my detailed thoughts. So take care, and remember, regardless of whether you're a TikToker who's obsessed with this thing or not, it's still only a game. So take care, and bye for now.